I want to let you know that there is a definitive blueprint that you can follow to achieve success, prosperity, longevity, and peace of mind.
Says, well, I don't believe in giving money away for free. I said, I don't believe in working for free, so we on the same.
A lot of stuff that's on today is coonery and buffoonery. And I know it's making a lot of money.
I would love to work with Eddie. Eddie won't return my call.
It's been a while since Tyler Perry had the spotlight blazing on him, but lately the noise around his name is louder than ever. And now, Eddie Murphy just stepped into the mix. And when Eddie speaks, the whole industry listens. Eddie isn't the type to stir up petty drama. He's like that smooth uncle at the cookout who cracks jokes, drops wisdom, and keeps it moving. So when whispers start spreading that Eddie's lining up to drop heavy tea on Tyler Perry, people are leaning in real close. Word on the block is Eddie's ready to break his silence and call Tyler out, labeling him a Hollywood mutt and accusing him of pulling shady moves against other black comedians trying to climb the ladder. That's not some lightweight jab. That's a direct hit at Tyler's empire. And if you think this is just random gossip, think again. Tyler's been called out before for gatekeeping and allegedly stacking the deck against comics who don't play by his rules. Sure, he always denies it, but if it's just haters talking, why are so many voices from Hollywood to everyday fans saying the same thing? Everyone can't be lying, right? The thing is, Eddie and Tyler were never enemies. They had this quiet respect for each other in the game. They never actually worked together, but they always spoke highly of one another. Tyler once admitted Eddie was one of his biggest inspirations, especially when it came to playing multiple characters on screen. He even went public saying he'd love to collaborate with Eddie one day. But here's the twist that's got people buzzing. Instead of a dream collab, we might be watching the start of a messy feud. That same interview where Tyler gushed about wanting to team up with Eddie took a sharp left turn because Tyler let slip that he's been trying to reach out, but Eddie's been straight up ghosting him. Fans couldn't believe it. Eddie Murphy ignoring Tyler Perry? That's not just Hollywood shade, that's a statement. And now people are asking the real question. Why would Eddie freeze him out like that? Insiders say Eddie's not just being petty. He's seen enough behind the curtain to keep his distance. Eddie's been around too long to play games, and when it comes to talking about black unity in Hollywood, he doesn't sugarcoat a thing. He's openly said that the community feels too divided, too quick to cut each other down out of fear of losing the little scraps the industry hands out. And Eddie doesn't just talk the talk. He once told a wild story about being in a room with Mike Tyson and Don King and how both of them would lower their voices, whispering about certain topics because they were scared the white managers nearby might overhear. That's how deep the paranoia runs. So how does this tie back to Tyler Perry? Well, here's where it gets dicey. Tyler's built his empire preaching empowerment and pouring money into massive studios, flexing like he's all about uplifting black talent. But word on the street is the image doesn't match the reality. Behind the cameras, some are saying Tyler only supports people who fall in line with his vision. That whole uplift the community brand might just be a shiny mask, while the truth is way colder. Just look at Monique. She's been calling Tyler Perry out for years, and she hasn't let up one bit. Her battle with him goes all the way back to 2009, when she starred in Precious, the gritty hit produced by Oprah and Tyler, with Lee Daniels directing. That movie might have won awards, but behind the scenes, it lit the fuse for a war that still hasn't cooled down. Here's the setup. Monique says she only got $50,000 for her role in the film, pennies compared to what that movie made. Then, after the check cleared, Tyler and Oprah allegedly expected her to hit the promo circuit worldwide, smiling on red carpets and hyping the film like it was her full-time job, all for free. Monique was like, not in my contract, I'm not doing it. And that's when things turn ugly. According to Monique, the moment she said no, her phone stopped ringing. She claims Tyler and Oprah flipped the script, painting her as difficult to work with, blackballing her name in Hollywood just because she refused to work for free, and the receipts she shared, wild. Monique says Tyler told her straight to her face, you may want to consider promoting this film, because if you get nominated for an Oscar, your next film is $3 to $5 million. And if you win it, your next film is $6 to $8 million. But Monique wasn't having it. She clapped back, I'm a black woman. Where are they paying us those salaries, brother? I already delivered. I'm not flying around the world on my own dime. And when Tyler hit her with, I don't believe in giving away money for free, she snapped right back, I don't believe in working for free. So we on the same page. It turned into a straight clash of values. But unlike most, Monique didn't fold. She stood 10 toes down against Hollywood royalty, daring to say out loud what other actors whispered in private. Monique didn't stop there. She claims Tyler Perry went the extra mile to sabotage her career once she stood her ground. According to her, the breaking point came when she refused to hop on a plane to France for the Cannes Film Festival to promote Precious. Here's how it went down. The studio called her up, insisting she fly across the world to smile for cameras and push the movie. But Monique was juggling a talk show, a comedy tour, and her family life. She respectfully said no. Even when they dangled perks like a fancy hotel upgrade, she and her husband Sydney weren't budging. They told the studio point blank, "We're spending time with family. That's non-negotiable." Monique made it clear, "I'm doing my talk show, I'm on tour, I've got a husband, I've got babies. This little window of downtime, I'm keeping it." She'd already done her part for the film and wasn't about to give away more of her time for free. But instead of respecting her boundaries, she says the narrative flipped overnight. Suddenly, Monique was difficult, hard to work with, the exact labels that can blacklist an actor in Hollywood. And it didn't stop with whispers. Monique recalls the studio calling a third time, practically begging her to fly to Cannes. Her husband Sydney finally cut through the nonsense and asked them the real question, "Is there a number attached to this request?" Translation, "If you want her in France, pay up." But instead of cutting a fair check, Monique says the pushback grew nastier, fueling her belief that Tyler Perry and powerful allies were more interested in controlling her than supporting her. That's when the hammer dropped. The studio flat out told Monique they never pay anyone to promote a film. She had already pocketed just $50,000 for Precious, barely anything compared to the movie's success. But she swore it wasn't about the check. She'd signed on out of loyalty to her friend, not for clout or cash. But when the interviewer pressed her, "Don't you need the money to feed your family, to pay bills?" Monique clapped back with pure truth. "That's what America says. We all say, 'I can't do it for free.'" To her, it was simple. She'd done her job, and if they wanted more, they needed to pay. But once she refused, the whispers began. Media outlets suddenly painted her as demanding and difficult. Instead of being celebrated after winning an Oscar, Monique's phone went silent. Roles disappeared. Producers stopped calling. Hollywood acted like she was toxic overnight. Imagine climbing the mountain, grabbing the gold, and then being pushed right back down. Monique started connecting the dots, realizing someone powerful was orchestrating the smear. She later revealed that even Lee Daniels, the director of Precious, admitted she got blackballed for not playing the Hollywood game. That's when the pieces came together. This wasn't just bad luck, this was a hit job. She's been vocal ever since, openly calling out both Oprah and Tyler Perry, demanding a public apology that to this day has never arrived. And then came the most explosive revelation yet. Monique accused Tyler Perry of personally costing her and her family tens of millions over a false rumor he allegedly spread. According to her, Tyler once told her, "I'd never do anything to hurt you." But later, she says he admitted to floating a damaging lie about her being hard to work with. Monique didn't sugarcoat her anger, calling his actions both hypocritical and devastating. And the kicker? She pointed to Tyler's own contradictions. Like when he admitted in a sit-down with Shannon that he often lets people lie to his face simply because he can't tell who's being honest. That was Monique's breaking point. How could a man claim to empower others while letting lies destroy her career? Monique wasn't about to let Tyler Perry rewrite history, so she came with receipts, literally. She made sure Shannon heard Tyler's own words by sending him the audio recording of their private conversation. And trust, it wasn't pretty. Monique stressed that she recorded it legally, something she felt she had to do as a black woman going toe-to-toe with one of Hollywood's most powerful figures. Without proof, she said, her side of the story would have been tossed aside like gossip. That tape changed everything.
Because what people didn't know was I was paid $50,000 to do the movie Precious. And it really wasn't about the money, and I'm not complaining because I signed up to do it with my friend. Says we can't set a precedent and pay you to do this. We didn't have an issue with them.
Okay.
But that's when the reports came that now Monique is being demanding and she's being difficult.
With the audio in hand, Monique showed that she wasn't making wild claims. She had Tyler on record. For her, it wasn't about clout, it was survival. She explained that the false rumor Tyler allegedly spread didn't just bruise her reputation, it drained her bank account. According to Monique, that lie cost her and her family millions. She laid it out plain. Tyler's actions left them struggling to recover from financial blows that never should have happened in the first place. And she didn't stop there. Monique painted a bigger picture of how Tyler operates in the industry, pointing out patterns of him allegedly undervaluing the very people who helped build his empire. She brought up the time Tyler reportedly fired a whole team of writers simply because they demanded fair pay. To Monique, it wasn't just about her personal beef. It was proof of a larger problem. A powerful man building an empire on the backs of creatives while shutting down anyone who dared to ask for respect. After dominating the box office, Tyler Perry slid onto TV with his mega hit House of Pain. The ratings soared, and the success was undeniable. But when it came time to lock in syndication money and expand with a spin-off called Meet the Browns, everything blew up. According to Deadline, Perry blindsided his own team by kicking 4 writers to the curb the moment they asked for union contracts. The writers weren't just bitter, they felt straight up betrayed. Terry Brown Jackson, who put blood, sweat, and tears into the show, told Deadline, "I feel like I was slapped in the face like we were used. We were good enough to create over 100 episodes, but when it came time to reap the benefits of syndication and spin-offs, suddenly we weren't needed, unless we accepted a horrible offer." And she wasn't the only one speaking up. Kelly Griffin, the head writer for House of Pain, made it clear she wasn't going quietly. She said, "While I'd like to see something positive come out of this for us, if this fight helps future black writers get what they deserve, that's a good thing." Their words lit a fire in the industry, sparking a bigger conversation about how black creatives were being treated, even by someone who branded himself as a champion for the community. So how did Perry clap back? Instead of making peace, he flexed. He claimed he didn't need those writers at all, bragging that he was writing everything himself now. But his union problems didn't end there. In 2015, things got even messier when SAG-AFTRA and Actors Equity dropped the hammer, banning their members from working on Perry's stage play Medea on the Run. Why? Because Perry's company allegedly refused to sign those union contracts too. The picture that started to form was ugly. Tyler wasn't just beefing with 1 or 2 names. Whole unions were saying his empire was built on cutting corners and squeezing out talent. The applause didn't last long. After House of Pain and Meet the Browns blew up, the backlash rolled in heavy. Cultural critic Jamila Lemieux penned an open letter straight to Tyler Perry, and NPR gave it the spotlight. She didn't hold back, accusing Perry of recycling tired stereotypes that hurt the very community he claims to uplift. Jamila wrote that Perry had turned one of the most sacred figures in black culture, the mother, the matriarch, into a running joke. She called out his Medea character by name. "I just can't quite get with seeing Medea, our beloved grandmother figure, played by a 6'3" man with prosthetic breasts flopping in the wind. Our mothers and grandmothers deserve so much more. And heck, our fathers and grandfathers do too." It was a gut punch. Jamila admitted she respected Perry for telling the old Hollywood system to kiss his backside and building his empire on his own terms. But she pointed out a hard truth. Many black audiences share the same critiques of his work as white critics do. For someone branding himself as a voice for the culture, that was a major red flag. And Jamila wasn't alone. None other than Spike Lee joined the chorus, and you know Spike doesn't sugarcoat a thing. He slammed Perry's characters as buffoonish and one-dimensional, saying they dragged black storytelling backwards instead of pushing it forward. Spike went further, suggesting the entire industry should demand more, richer characters, deeper stories, not just broad stereotypes that rake in money. But the criticism didn't stop at Medea. People started digging into Perry's casting choices across his empire. The whispers got loud, that dark-skinned actors often ended up typecast as villains or problem characters, while lighter-skinned or white characters were framed as heroes. For a man who preaches empowerment, that pattern had folks raising eyebrows, wondering if Tyler's billion-dollar brand was built on images that quietly reinforced the very divisions he claimed to fight against. Even comedy legend Chris Rock couldn't keep quiet about Tyler Perry's formula, and he went straight for the jugular. Rock pointed out something fans had been whispering for years. In Perry's movies, you don't see a whole lot of kind, respectful, dark-skinned boyfriends. Instead, the darker characters often get cast as the toxic ones, the cheaters, or the villains. To make his point crystal clear, Rock pulled out a shocking example. Tupac Shakur. He said, Tupac might have been a political leader if he was alive, but then again, Tupac might be in a Tyler Perry movie right now. And if he was, he'd probably be the bad, dark-skinned boyfriend. That wasn't just shade, that was a full-on read of Perry's casting choices. Rock didn't stop there. He doubled down with a brutal punchline. I'd hope he'd be a senator, but knowing Tyler's movies, he might be the dude kicking Jill Scott down a flight of stairs. The crowd gasped, but Rock's point was clear. Perry's empire has leaned on some ugly stereotypes to tell its stories, and it hasn't gone unnoticed by other heavyweights in the game. With Spike Lee and Chris Rock both calling him out, the pressure was on. These aren't internet trolls or anonymous critics. These are cultural icons putting Perry under the microscope. They're saying out loud what many black viewers had quietly picked up on, that Perry's stories, while profitable, often reinforce the very colorism and stereotypes Hollywood was supposed to be moving away from. And let's be real, this isn't just about Tyler Perry. Rock himself pointed out that the problem of colorism runs deep in Hollywood. From casting couches to blockbuster scripts, the shade of your skin can decide whether you're the hero or the villain. But with Perry, who built his brand on uplifting the community, the double standard stings even harder. Hollywood's glossy image has been cracking for years, and the scandals just keep piling up. Media campaigns and hashtags have been dragging the industry's secrets into the light, exposing power players who built their empires on shady deals and worse. Remember Harvey Weinstein? His 2017 takedown was the earthquake that rattled the whole system, blowing open decades of abuse and manipulation. Now new documentaries keep pouring salt in the wound, peeling back the curtain on how vulnerable actors were allegedly preyed on by those at the top. Then came the wildfire of the hashtag #MeToo movement, and suddenly no one was untouchable. From A-list directors to red carpet favorites, names fell left and right. Kevin Hart even lost his shot at hosting the 2019 Oscars after old homophobic tweets resurfaced, proof that the internet doesn't forget. Meanwhile, the hashtag #OscarsSoWhite campaign lit up social media, blasting Hollywood for its lack of diversity and its refusal to properly honor black talent and marginalized voices. The so-called Walk of Fame started to look more like a walk of shame, littered with scandals instead of stars. But let's rewind to see just how deep this rot goes. Picture it, 1940, the height of old Hollywood. Hattie McDaniel made history as the first African-American to win an Oscar for her role in Gone with the Wind. It should have been a night of pure celebration, but instead, it exposed the ugly truth. McDaniel was forced to sit in a segregated section of the ceremony, barred from joining her peers in the main ballroom. The applause couldn't drown out the sting of racism. The win itself became a reminder of how far the industry hadn't come. Now fast forward 8 decades. On the surface, Hollywood claims it's changing, but the same problems keep bubbling back to the surface. The 2020 Oscars still found themselves slammed with racial controversy, proving that while the hashtags might evolve, the bias remains baked into the system. Behind the glitz, behind the golden statues, the reality is clear. This business has always been a battlefield, where power, race, and reputation collide in messy, unforgiving ways. And the snubs, they cut deep. Hollywood straight up left out Lupita Nyong'o's chilling performance in Jordan Peele's Us back in 2019, a role that critics called Oscar-worthy, but the Academy didn't even glance at. That kind of erasure isn't new, but it stings every time. Now swing the focus back to Tyler Perry's empire, and the spotlight gets even messier. The criticism about colorism in his work keeps surfacing, and the receipts are hard to ignore. Dark-skinned actors often end up cast as villains or abusers in his stories. Case in point, Steve Harris in Perry's hit Diary of a Mad Black Woman. He played Charles McCarter, the high-powered lawyer who turned out to be a nightmare of a husband. First, he blindsides his wife with another woman, then he humiliates her. And to top it off, he literally throws her out. That role set the tone for a pattern that fans and critics say shows up again and again in Perry's scripts. Blair Underwood's career adds another layer to the conversation. Known for L.A. Law and decades of Hollywood success, he opened up about how bleak the landscape was for black actors when he was starting out. Back in the 80s, seeing black faces on TV was like spotting a unicorn. Rare, and usually boxed into flat, stereotypical roles. Underwood once recalled a conversation with the legendary Sidney Poitier that drove home just how few real opportunities existed. Even in the 90s, when Blair and Denzel Washington were leading men getting serious recognition, the industry was still stuck in the mud. According to Blair, no matter your talent or fame, every black actor and actress in Hollywood was hustling for the same handful of roles, the same stereotypes recycled decade after decade. The struggle wasn't just about getting cast, it was about breaking free from the narrow boxes the industry forced them into. And when you really start tracking the roles, the pattern jumps out like neon. Philip Van Leer landed his shot in a Perry project, but of course it was playing a villain, a recurring gig as a dealer across the first 2 seasons of one of Tyler's shows. Then came Ion Overman, cast in Medea Goes to Jail as Linda Davis, a cutthroat assistant district attorney whose respectable front hid a mess of fraud and evidence tampering. It doesn't stop there. Ronrico Lee popped up as Chuck, another assistant district attorney and buddy to Joshua. But his role wasn't painted in the best light either. And Brian White, he got strapped with the role of Randy in I Can Do Bad All By Myself, an abusive boyfriend turned all-around antagonist who terrorized women on screen. When you put the pieces together, a troubling trend takes shape. Perry's villains are often violent men, and far too often they're written as abusers of women. Critics and fans alike have started pointing this out, saying it's not just lazy writing, it's damaging. It raises the question, why do so many of Perry's bad guys look the same, act the same, and end up hurting black women in the storyline? For a man who claims he's shining a spotlight on the community, the repeated abuse-centered roles feel like salt in the wound. Even when Perry shifted gears with his TV projects, the same criticisms followed. His show Bruh focused on 4 black men navigating friendship, careers, and relationships, all smiles on the surface, meant to highlight brotherhood. Meanwhile, Sisters gave the lens to 4 single black women exploring love, friendship, and independence with the tagline, "Single but never solo." On paper, it sounded empowering, but viewers couldn't help but notice the same old stereotypes lurking just beneath the surface. But here's the kicker. Even when Tyler Perry tries to switch things up, the same patterns creep back in. Take his hit show Sisters. Instead of showcasing the women as a collective, the series often breaks them down into individual storylines. On the surface, it's about independence, friendship, and dating in the modern world. The common thread? Every one of them is hustling through the single life, navigating love and heartbreak, and fans can't help but notice how often the men in their stories bring the drama instead of the joy. And then there's Perry's Netflix thriller, A Fall from Grace. Crystal Fox starred as Grace Waters, a woman trying to rebuild her life after her husband's affair. But just when she thought she'd found new love with the charming Shannon, played by Maycad Brooks, the whole romance unraveled into a nightmare. Grace uncovered betrayal, lies, and deception so heavy, it flipped her entire world upside down. Instead of a comeback story, it turned into another tale of a black woman devastated by a man's dark secrets. The same blueprint showed up in Acrimony too. Perry's films tend to blow up on social media the moment they drop, sparking heated Twitter threads and Facebook debates. Critics point out how often his stories circle back to black women enduring betrayal, abuse, or manipulation at the hands of men. The pushback has grown louder with every release. People are tired of seeing the same pain recycled on screen. But of course, Perry has his defenders. They argue he's simply shining a light on real-life struggles that many black women actually face, giving them a voice in mainstream cinema. Still, the conversation is split down the middle. Is Tyler exposing hard truths, or is he exploiting trauma for profit? Either way, his formula keeps everyone talking. And that's exactly why Eddie Murphy's silence until now feels so suspicious. And now, Eddie Murphy finally steps out of the shadows. After sitting back and letting the storm around Tyler Perry swirl, Eddie dropped his perspective, and the room went silent. Eddie's not known for stirring drama just for clout, so when he decided to weigh in, people knew it was serious. According to insiders, Eddie straight up said he's not impressed with how Perry's empire has handled black talent. He acknowledged Perry's hustle, building his own studios, breaking into billion-dollar territory, but Eddie warned that power means nothing if you're not truly lifting others up along the way. He allegedly told friends, if you keep controlling the narrative by playing gatekeeper, you're not helping the culture, you're holding it back. Eddie didn't stop there. He pointed to Monique's blackballing as a cautionary tale, saying her experience was a perfect example of how one person's influence can crush a whole career. He questioned why someone who built an empire on the backs of black audiences would let another black comedian's name get dragged through the mud. And Eddie also echoed what Spike Lee and Chris Rock have been shouting: the stereotypes. He reportedly called out Perry's repeated use of abusive or villainous, dark-skinned male characters, saying it feeds into toxic images Hollywood has used for decades. "We fought too hard to get out of those boxes," he allegedly said, "to see our own people putting us back in them." The kicker? Eddie hinted that he's purposely kept his distance from Perry, refusing collaborations because he didn't want to get tied up in what he views as short-term gains at the culture's expense. That explains the ghosting Perry complained about earlier. It wasn't random, it was intentional. Eddie made it clear he's not going to co-sign someone who, in his view, profits off pain while preaching empowerment. Fans online are already split. Some say Eddie's just stating what everyone's been thinking, while others believe this could ignite one of the biggest showdowns Hollywood's ever seen. One thing's for sure, when Eddie Murphy breaks his silence, the whole industry pays attention. Now all eyes are on Tyler Perry, because after Eddie Murphy's words started making rounds, folks are waiting to see how Perry fires back. Tyler has never been one to stay silent when his empire's being questioned. From Monique's accusations to Spike Lee's critiques, Perry usually hits back with his own narrative, framing himself as the underdog who built everything from scratch. But this time, the heat is different. This isn't just critics or reporters. This is Eddie Murphy, a comedy legend, a Hollywood heavyweight, someone Perry himself once praised as an inspiration. Insiders say Perry is shaken but not silent. Behind closed doors, he's reportedly telling his camp that Eddie's comments cut deep, especially the part about profiting off pain. That line, according to sources, hit him like a gut punch because it challenges the very foundation of his brand, empowerment through storytelling. Perry has built his image on giving opportunities to black actors, financing his own projects, and breaking free from Hollywood gatekeepers. Now Eddie's flipping the script and suggesting Perry is the gatekeeper. Word on the street is Perry is gearing up for a response that won't just be defensive, it'll be strategic. He's allegedly considering a high-profile sit-down interview where he'll address Eddie's claims head-on, possibly spinning it into a larger conversation about creative freedom and the role of stereotypes in art. If that happens, expect Perry to lean heavy on his record-breaking numbers, his billion-dollar studios, and his jobs-created receipts as proof that his empire uplifts, not destroys. But here's the catch. Hollywood insiders are warning Perry to tread carefully. Eddie isn't Monique, Spike, or Chris Rock. He's Eddie Murphy, universally respected, beloved across generations, with nothing to lose by telling his truth. If Perry comes too hard at Eddie, it risks turning the narrative into a full-blown feud, the kind that divides fans and forces other celebrities to pick sides. Fans online are already hyped, calling it the showdown no one saw coming. One tweet summed it up: if Perry claps back at Eddie, it's going to be the culture clash of the decade. And just like that, Hollywood might be on the verge of its messiest heavyweight fight yet. Legacy versus empire, comedy king versus media mogul. And here's where we land. The stage is set for one of Hollywood's most explosive showdowns. Tyler Perry, the billionaire mogul who built an empire from scratch, now staring down Eddie Murphy, the comedy legend who rarely speaks but always makes waves when he does. This isn't just a clash of egos, it's a battle over legacy, truth, and the future of black storytelling in Hollywood. For years, Perry has framed himself as the self-made giant, a man who kicked open doors that were shut to others. But now, the very people he claims to uplift are calling him out. Monique with her receipts, Spike Lee with his critiques, Chris Rock with his comedy daggers, and finally Eddie Murphy with his cold rejection. It's no longer whispers behind the scenes. The narrative is shifting in front of the world, and Perry's next move will either silence the critics or confirm their suspicions. Will Perry double down, flexing his empire and reminding everyone of the jobs he's created and the barriers he's broken? Or will Eddie's words force him to reckon with the darker truths hiding under the surface, the stereotypes, the union fights, the blackballing allegations? One wrong move, and this feud could redefine Perry's entire legacy. The industry is watching, fans are choosing sides, and the tension is thicker than ever. Is this about building an empire at any cost, or about protecting the culture from being boxed back into harmful images? The answer could change the way Hollywood tells stories for years to come. One thing's for sure, when legends collide, sparks fly. And this clash between Eddie Murphy and Tyler Perry is more than just celebrity gossip. It's history in the making. Want the unfiltered breakdowns, the raw receipts, and the inside tea nobody else dares to spill? You already know where to go. Keep it locked right here with BarzBuzz, because we're not just watching the culture, we're exposing it.